Hey everybody, welcome to the 130th edition of Drive Thru Review. Today I'm going to talk about Mage Wars. Got to make room for the big box here. This is a game that's got quite a bit of hype. Came out of Gen Con. It's about two dueling mages in an arena doing battle. This game's friggin' amazing, okay? It is friggin' amazing. So everybody gets a spell book here, and the game comes with two of these spell books. You get to fill it out with different spells. There's enchantments, there's incantations, there's creatures, there's direct attacks, there's equipment. You're going to base your spell book on the mage that you choose. You can choose like a Beastmaster or a Priestess, and you're going to be able to spend spell points up to 120 points to fit the spells in here. Now you can grab spells out of a different school. So if you're a Priestess, you could grab a wizard spell. But it's going to basically double and sometimes triple the amount of points it costs to spend to put in here. So usually you're going to have, I don't know, 50 spells in here at one time. The other thing you're going to look at a lot is this rulebook, which is amazing. It's very well written, very well illustrated, lots of examples. There's a nice codex in the back that also acts as an index. So if you forget what a keyword is, then you can go and look it up real quickly, and then if you need some more details, you can go refer to the rulebook. So there's been a bunch of walkthroughs and things like that already produced by the company, which is very good. I love to see that. I'm not going to give you a strict walkthrough. I'm going to kind of go into how it sort of feels to play the game. I'll give you some rules, in the process of that. But the thing that is really great about this game that basically crushes games like Summoner Wars, Dungeon Command, what other battle games are there? I don't know. There's other battle games, right? This one actually feels like you're a mage in an arena doing battle with another mage. All of the spells make thematic sense. They make logical sense. The powers feel pretty balanced. There are certain sort of combos you can do. The timing of how all the different creatures on each side and each mage is going to take their actions is really good. It makes a lot of sense. And I'm just going to show you a little bit about it, some close-ups of the components and everything and how it works. Then I'll come back and tell you what I just told you about a minute ago. Okay, just want to give you a nice view of the box cover. It's indicative of the quality of art that comes in the rest of the game. So again, each mage in the game is going to have a spell book, and these are the two spell books that came in my package. I don't know if they all have the same art. I believe they do. These are very high quality. I'm not a big components guy, but these are just amazing. I mean, they're sturdy. You can fit the cards in here with sleeves, all kinds of good stuff. And so you can see here I've got two books that I've made up, and I have done some customization of the different decks and the different mages that are in the game. Companies actually printed off a new sort of basic list for the different mages and the basic spell books. I'd recommend getting that. But now I've had a chance to customize these, really play with these and tweak these. And it's very, very fun, and this is definitely a big, huge part of the game is going to be customizing these spell books, sort of metagaming with your buddy or your group of buddies to kind of come up with a powerful set of spells. Now, I've got two full books here, and here are all the extra cards that are left over. I've sort of separated them into bags, so you got your enchantments here, more enchantments, lots of enchantments, a bunch of creatures here, all kinds of different stuff. Now, I do have the spells from the tome that you can buy. So there's like 160 cards extra that you can buy. I think it's about 10 or 15 bucks online to get those extra cards. I really don't know if I recommend getting those or not, because I got it just because it seemed like a good price, a good deal. And it gives you a lot of sort of the basic spells that you're going to want in most every spell book. Like there's some spells that will help you sort of counteract some of the abilities of the opponent so they don't, overpower you too much. So it seemed like a good idea, and I'd probably just recommend to get it, but I haven't really noticed because I had it from the beginning, so I would say get it. So here's two mages here. You can see I got the Beastmaster and the Wizard here with their sort of compatriot ability card that gives you some details about them. So you can see on here, this tells you how many spell points you can put in for that mage. They're all 120, and then you got 32 hit points to start with, no armor. I don't think any of them come with armor. And then you've got a channeling, which is the amount of mana you're going to get every turn. You got some basic attacks here on the bottom, number of dice that you'll roll, maybe some special effects. And then sort of a special ability here, like this guy gets a voltaic shield, which you'll put on him, and you can turn that on at the beginning of each turn to give him some extra armor, because the wizard is pretty weak in close combat. And you can see here the Beastmaster is the same. He gets the ability to make one of his creatures a pet. So indicative of the Beastmaster, he's going to be focused on creatures. So you can make one of his sort of a special creature. It gives some buffs to the creature. I'm not going to go into super amount of detail about each mage, but I just want to give you an idea of what this kind of looks like. So each mage here has a little board. They're identical for every mage. You can see here's the mana that it has. Every mage is going to start with 10 mana. And then at the start of each turn during an upkeep phase, they're going to increase their mana by wherever their channeling is. So the Beastmaster had 9 channeling. So at the start of even the very first turn, he's going to get 9 mana. So he's going to start the game with 19 mana. And then you've got a life chart here. So the Beastmaster starts with 36 life. And then actually as it takes damage, this little red marker is going to go up. Then as soon as it hits that, then the Beastmaster's dead, and then that player's lost the game. And also there's a nice little turn breakdown here in the left-hand side. You don't even really need it after halfway through your first game, but it's nice to have for reference. So you can see here the arena is divided into this grid here, and this is a good sized grid. So here's my Beastmaster card, and you can see there's a good amount of room there. So if I get other creatures in here like so, it's going to get a little bit crowded, and I've seen it where it gets kind of crazy for a turn or two. But you can have a lot of stuff in one zone there. So the nice thing about this, though, it's very unique, I think. So it takes a very sort of simple grid and adds a lot of sort of tactical flavor to how all the different creatures move. Some of them will move fast, like this fox here has a fast movement, and some of them move slow. And there's this whole thing with initiative. When I start to go into how the turn works, it's going to be very key in the order that you activate all the different creatures. If you have initiative, if you don't, sometimes you can pass. The mages can actually do sort of 2 actions. They get this quick cast icon, and then they get the normal icon. And then each creature in the game gets one of these. So after you've done activating it, you'll flip it over, and then that's exhausted its action for the turn. But the mage gets 2. So before anybody takes any actions, depending on who has the initiative, and here's a little initiative token here, then you have sort of a quick cast phase. So if I wanted to cast a quick spell, I could do that before anybody's done anything, or I can save it. And then I can actually cast this before or after any other creature or even myself takes an action. So you get sort of a 1-2 punch. You can sort of do sort of a double up effect to sort of push on and, you know, get a little bit more damage on the guy, you know, sort of put pressure on the other player. And you got to really decide when it's a good time to use that. I really like this part. So let's take a look at a couple of creatures here. So we've got this Bitterwood Fox here, and it's fast, which means it can actually move 2 spaces and still take a quick action. And you've got this gorilla here, or excuse me, grizzly, and you can see it's got a little bit of extra armor. It's got 3 armor, 15 life, where this little fox has got 0 armor and 5 life. And it's just got this little melee attack here, and then this one's got actually 2 attacks. So you can see here there's a quick action icon, and it rolls 5 dice, and it gets a piercing of +1, which means it'll ignore the armor of 1 armor from another creature. And it's got a full action here. So this one actually rolls 7 dice, and then a piercing +1. It's also got a frost -3. And that's actually good because what it is, it's got this, it's extra coat and it's layering. So whenever anything is attacking it with a frost spell, it's actually going to roll 3 less dice. And the difference with the quick action and the full action is, with a quick action, you can take your creature, move it 1 space, and then still take a quick action. Or you could even move it 2 spaces. Whereas this fast guy, like I said, he can move 2 spaces and do a quick action. Now the full action is going to eat up a lot of his turn, sort of a big giant attack. So you couldn't move and do this full action with the grizzly. So as I said, you're going to roll dice, and these are the dice here. So anything that is not in a sort of sunburst here will get blocked by armor. But if you roll a sunburst with sort of the critical hit, it'll go through the armor. Sometimes the creature here will have an attack, like this guy will roll 3 dice, and then he'll have a D12 roll here. So you roll this D12 along with the dice, and if you roll higher than this, it'll put on some effect usually, like this one puts on a rot. And the game comes with these various little counters here, so if I were to get a rot on a creature, I'd just throw that out there. And it usually tells you here, upkeep, take 1 damage. So every turn at the beginning of the turn, this guy will take a damage. You've got sleep, which is very effective. Basically, put your creature to sleep out of the game. You got a burn effect here, which will do some damage, possibly stun, weakening. You got daze on the other side here. So it's very thematic in that sense, where not only are you attacking and trying to do damage to kill the different creatures, but you're also trying to sort of take certain things out of the game, where a creature may have, sort of a big effect, and you don't want them getting anywhere close to your mage. You maybe try to distract it, get some rot on it, sleep it, daze it, to basically take it out of the game for a little while. So here I've got 2 flying creatures. I just wanted to show you some of the variety that's available here. So like this guy here, Philella Pixie Familiar, he can fly, she can fly, and she can also cast spells. She's got her own channeling here. So you can even have her cast spells. And this guy's a legendary, you can only have one of him, he's got some defense rolling. So certain creatures will have sort of a dodge ability, or some kind of ability where they can roll a defense. So before the attack happens, you can roll this die, and if you roll greater than or equal to that number, then you're able to miss the attack entirely. So there's a lot of variety here, sort of thematic flavor, everything thrown into all these different cards. So here's some equipment, and you can see the equipment will actually fit in different slots. So you just basically put this in front of you off to the side of the board. So here you've got a ring here. This is for the Beastmaster only, and this lets them cast creatures out for 1 mana less once per turn. Here's a regrowth belt, and this mage gains a regenerate 2, so every turn they're going to regenerate 2 health. Here's a staff here of beasts, and you can actually use this in a few different ways. You can attack with it, or you can actually use a quick cast action or a quick spell action, and you can either heal a creature, or you can give them +2 melee. And then you've got a longbow here. This actually takes up both the weapon slot and the shield spot. And this is a ranged weapon that, you know, you roll 4 dice and it's got piercing of 1. So this is really cool too, how you can get the different equipment, maybe fit out the Beastmaster with this bow, which is not a Beastmaster school. You can see here, you got the little tree here, and that's sort of the nature school, the Beastmaster school. But this one here is actually going to cost me 4 points to put it into my spellbook, because it's 2, and then you double it because it's not in my school. But maybe I want to give him this bow sort of as a surprise to big attacks. Next, you've got these Conjurations, and these are the kind of things that you're going to sort of cast maybe early on in your game. Sort of to set up buffs and different sort of effects and things that get down on the ground, and that will generate things for you throughout the course of the game. So you can see here's the layer here. So if I cast this, it costs me 15 mana. I can put this down in the zone, and then it's going to have a channeling of its own. So 2 mana per turn, and then this can actually cast animal creatures of its own. So you want to get that out early, and then, you know, get some more creatures out and try to overwhelm your opponent. Here we've got a mana flower, and this one actually will give you +1 channeling. So again, you'll bump up your channeling on your board, and then you're going to get that much more mana every round. And you can see these also have abilities, so opponents can come in there and sort of destroy these. It's got no armor but 6 health. It's also got a regenerate, and it's got a flame +2. So it's susceptible to fire. So if somebody's attacking with fire, they're going to roll 2 extra dice, which makes sense because it's a flower. Finally, we have these walls here. And these walls are actually going to be putting in between the grid here. And so the walls are going to be different. Some of them don't do anything but block line of sight. This one has thorns, so people moving through it will have to take damage or have an attack done against it. It's got regenerating on it. So there's a lot of different things you can do to the battlefield itself to sort of funnel your enemy in. And there's other cards that you can try to pull them in. So let me show you some of this stuff. So here's a force push. So you see target creature is pushed 1 zone in the direction of your choice. If the target is pushed through a wall with a passage attack trait, remember I showed you the wall there, then you must pay an additional 3 mana. This has no effect on unmovable creatures. So you've got this kind of thing will help like pull things in or push things away from you. And here we've got like a minor heal. You roll 5 dice, costs 5 mana. You've got a full heal, costs 9 mana. You roll 8 dice, and then you heal whatever amount it shows for. So these are incantations, sort of special effects. They're not direct damage. They're not like walls and creatures and different things that you'll put in the battlefield. Then you've got here these enchantments, and these are really kind of cool things. So you can see these enchantments always have a first cost of 2 and then a differing cost to the right. So what I can do when I'm going to cast this Bear Strength here, you can see it's going to give me +2 on my melee attacks. So I can cast this, put it face down under my bear, and then it's there. So it's always going to cost 2. So my opponent doesn't know what that is. Or it could be a Dastardly enchantment, and I could put that face down under him. And then when I want to, or sometimes you have to, if it's like something that will block an attack or something, then you pay the second cost there. And then you'll reveal it and then go there. And here's one that you probably should always have in your deck, at least for this basic set. It's called Nullify. And so you cast it for 2, and then you can reveal it at 2. So when the creature is targeted by an incantation or an enchantment, then I'm going to reveal this, pay the 2 if I've got the mana, and then it'll counteract that. There's some other cards that'll like reverse it right back on the other guy. There's some ones that will reverse attacks and things like that. So there's quite a variety of these enchantments. And you can even enchant a zone, place it down as a trap. I mean, so you can sort of bluff a little bit and place like a weak trap just to get them to come this way, even though that really doesn't do anything. Or you can get a couple of these down. You could probably focus on traps, focus on the board. You could focus on creatures, focus on direct damage. You know, some of these more special effects like pushing stuff around. And here, speaking of attacks, we've got a Chain Lightning attack, which I use in my wizard book. Costs 12 mana. You can see here it's a full action, not a quick action. And I can cast it 0 to 1, so either the space I'm in or one space away. And it's going to roll 5 dice plus a little d12 to either daze or stun. What's going to happen though with this one is it says here it's going to hit the first guy that you target, and then it's going to hit the next guy and the next guy and the next guy, as long as they're within the line of sight of each other. So this is a really kind of special effect attack. And you've got, you know, basic lightning, you've got different types of fireballs, you've got all kinds of different elemental things. You got frost ones, but remember he's resistant to frost, so there's a whole sort of sort of the elemental aspect of the game as well. So what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to take 2 cards out of your spell book, keep them hidden, and then these are going to be the spells available to you to cast. Now you may have a lair or some other kind of object out here that can cast its own spells, maybe a creature, so you would pull out 1 card for them and you'd put it with them. So if this grizzly bear for some reason could cast spells, I would put that with them, and then I'd have 2 cards of my own that I could cast on my turn. And then you're going to take turns activating creatures. So whoever has the initiative is going to go first. And again, you have the option before you start activating people to do a quick cast, or you can save that for later in the round, or even at the end of the round you can do it as sort of a last minute thing. So I maybe activate my mage, and then my opponent will activate, they'll have a red one of these, they'll activate theirs, and go back and forth. Now if you have less active markers here, you can actually pass and make your opponent go first, which you might want to do a lot of times because you want maybe your opponent to move close to you to get within range of so you can move and attack. So there's a lot of sort of a cat and mouse gaminess with this, you know, as far as the positioning of things on the board and how valuable are these things to you. Like this fox maybe isn't that valuable, so you can kind of put him out there to sort of act as a bait, you know, for your opponent to come in. And I know this isn't like a traditional walkthrough, but there are other ones out there, like I said. But the point I'm trying to get across here is that I'm not going to tell you, okay, you cast a spell and it casts 5 mana and then you move the marker down 5 on your board. The game goes above and beyond that more than any of these sort of battle collectible-ish type of games where it's like, I'm not worried about my mechanics when I'm playing this game. I'm worried about conserving my mana so I have enough stuff, maybe letting it build up a little bit this turn so I can cast a big creature like this grizzly. And the game is really, really focused on that aspect of the mechanics are very simple. Like I said, you can move and attack, you can move twice. Everybody gets 1 action usually. You can flip that over and then you just do whatever it says on the card. But the game is really about gauging how powerful your opponent's creatures seem like they can be, trying to trick your opponent, trying to really get in beyond the mechanics into the actual game, into the flavor of the game. And the game really excels at that. Okay, hope you enjoyed that overview. There's a lot to really enjoy about this game. And it was probably a little bit disconcerting at first because the immediate comparisons are going to be Magic the Gathering and Summoner Wars and probably Dungeon Command, and I feel like I'm forgetting one. But it is a game that is unlike any of those, by far. It does something totally different because those are all basically random deck draws, okay? Like in Magic, you got to draw your mana and to cast your spells. And, you know, Summoner Wars, it doesn't make any sense. Like the tactical stuff doesn't really, it's all super gamey and doesn't really have any thematic sense to it. Dungeon Command is close, but it still has that card draw aspect, and you maybe don't get the creatures you want. Dungeon Command also has the other problem of, you know, I can't just build whatever I want. You know, like if I want to have 10 spiders in my army, you'd have to buy an infinite amount of boxes of stuff. So this one is really cool because it takes all of that stuff out, and it's crap. I mean, it's not, I'm not saying any of those are bad games because of this, but the crap of the card draw is gone. You have an actual spell book. And it's like, part of me is like, well, duh. I mean, why didn't somebody think of this like 10 years ago? But it's also a bit disconcerting, like I said, because you've got so much stuff to choose from. And so I think I've seen people say that that's a problem. There's too much to go through. I don't know what to cast. But you don't have to think about it like that. I mean, we haven't had a game go over an hour and a half. And, you know, we're still learning the game. So as the game, we get better at it and, you know, we're more aware of what the other guy's going to have and stuff like that. That time's going to go down for sure. And to me, that's not that much of an investment in time to play the game, because it's very rewarding. First of all, I mean, I feel like I got a good hour and a half out of it. But it is disconcerting. I mean, I will admit that it's a lot to sort of digest at first. But if you come at the game thinking of like, okay, what would I want to do? I'm standing here in this arena and this other guy's trying to kill me. And what am I going to do? Well, it's early on. I'm going to cast some stuff that will increase my channeling, some defenses, maybe a couple little creatures to harass him. If you go at it from that perspective and don't try to like power game the thing right out the gate, then I think the game is really going to hit that next level for people. And there's just a ton of variety that I think will make it sort of the replayability happen. Is so you've got, you know, the different elemental attacks, you've got the different types of special attacks pushing people around, you've got all kinds of different equipment, just a ton of stuff that you can approach the game not from a numbers and kind of dollars and cents approach. You can approach it from just a purely thematic approach. And it's nice because all the things, all the art, you know, on the cards is very well done. You don't usually cover it up too much. Yeah, you have those little markers and things, but you can just kind of put them around. You can kind of visually feel where everything is. So I think it really excels at that. I mean, I just can't go on enough about it. It's just very, very simple as well. I mean, you just, when you get down to the actual basic structure of a turn, you basically draw 2 cards, and then we go. And then maybe you cast those 2 spells. Maybe you don't. Maybe I keep this as a backup because I have a weapon or something that's going to have a quick ability that I would like to use. But if I can't, you know, because of the situation changes in the round, you know, oh, this creature's now dead. Oh, he casted this on his creature, so now it's immune to whatever type of damage or something along those lines. Then you really have to sort of, you have to really digest what's happening and make good decisions in that way. But again, it's back to the decisions are not all numbers. You know, they're not all mathematics. There's a little bit of it, but it's very visceral, you know, very, very visceral. You know, like in Magic, you have a game, Magic the Gathering, you'll have a game where it's like, hey, remember that time you top decked a fireball and nuked me? Yeah, that's cool. But this one is like, you know, remember that time I had this creature with all these armor buffs on it and it just wrecked through your line, and then you pushed it or banished it out of the game, and then you came in and killed me? Those are more story-driven kind of events that'll happen out of the game. And they're more memorable. You know, they're not so math-based, like I top deck and had 8 mana. You know, who cares? So it has that whole aspect to it. So anyway, I'm going to stop going off about it. It's very hard to review these things sometimes that aren't sort of mathematical and more subjective. But the one thing I would like to see with this game is I'd like to see a mage that was like mostly a warrior, mostly melee combat, not so spell driven, not so, you know, mage driven, but it was like more of a melee guy. I'd like to see all kinds of stuff. I mean, there's so much they could do with this, so that you can get away from some of the things, some of the tropes that might happen. Because one of the things you can do is if you have a wand, you can equip that wand with a spell and cast it over and over again. Well, one quick tactic to do that I had to actually use on me today quite a bit, and I just conceded, is you can equip the wand with sleep. So he's basically sleeping all of my guys. Well, last night when I was making my deck, there's a spell called Dissolve, which will dissolve in a piece of equipment. And I was really trying to fine-tune my deck to a strategy, but it was like, oh, I don't know, should I put Dissolve in there? Last time we played, you know, the equipment wasn't really doing that much. It would have been nice to dissolve like his Fire Wand or something. So I didn't put it in there. Well, that wrecked me. So now there's sort of this metagame sort of stasis where it's like I have to put Dissolve in my spellbook every time because he's always going to have it. But that's not a big of a deal because it's not, Dissolve doesn't cost that much to put in there. And there's other spells like Nullify, what's the other one? Like a Reverse Magic, less than Nullify, things like that you kind of want to have in there just as sort of the counter spell in the reflect back at the opponent. So it would be nice to see some variations on that. And that's kind of how Magic was when it came, you know, first came out. It was like counterspell and then like rebound. I don't remember the card names, but you know, the blue Magic had its tropes that it always has stuck to through time. But as Magic's evolved, you've had other ways of dealing with those that are not just counterspell. So I'd like to see more of that kind of thing in future sets. But it's fine. You know, I pack 2 dissolve in my book, and then away we go. And then you can really start to get into the game a little bit more, because it's a lot more fun when it's not like predictable. And so I could see this moving to a predictable. It's like I got to have these 5-6 cards in my deck or my book, and that's it. So I'd like to see sort of a move away from that, but I don't really fault the game too much for that, because it's like we got 1 set so far. So anyway, that's the game. I think you should just go get it if you like any kind of battle game. If you're a war gamer, a miniatures gamer, or whatever, Magic player, you know, I would just get it just because it's awesome and it crushes Summon Wars and Dungeon Command and Magic. So anyway, sorry, but anyway, thanks.